Joining us from Palo Alto, California, we have Ashhok Kumar, who's a senior technology analyst at Rodman Renshaw. And Ashhok has a market perform aggressive risk rating on RIM. Good afternoon to you, Ashhok. Let's talk about these numbers. I mean, how disappointing were they to you?
Hello, Susan. Yes, I think we were cautious going into the earnings release, primarily because of heavy discounting in this past quarter to move their flagship product, the 9700. And also most of the sales in the international markets was dominated by the lower-end curve product. So I think this is the beginning of a significant pricing headwind for the company.
Yeah, significant pricing headwind. That's right. In fact, they shipped more units than you had expected in that period. But again, margins being squeezed, and it looks like pricing pressure could be increasing. You know, we have Verizon now offering the iPhone and other Android smartphones as well. So how tough is it going to get for RIM?
Yeah, Susan, those are all very important points. In this past quarter, the 9700 was half-priced at AT&T. Despite that, we are seeing the beginning of this quarter, the March quarter, we are beginning to see that Motorola has already displaced RIM as the best-selling device in the AT&T channel with a black flip phone. And going forward, the woes are only going to mount. Looking at Verizon, of course, we have Apple's much-anticipated refresh for Verizon's network coming up later this year. But more importantly, we'll see a slew of Asian players featuring Android devices. You have LG, Samsung. We also have lower-cost players like ZTE flooding the Verizon channel, and all of that will translate a significant share loss, for RIM down the road.
Yeah, and RIM also try to compete with iPhones, especially in those new touchscreen handheld devices, and they haven't really been selling.
Yeah, Susan, that's a very important point because the touchscreen product, the Storm, was an abysmal failure for the company. They expected to refresh that line with a Touch QWERTY in a SKU, and it's unclear whether that will reverse its fortunes. So bottom line is, they face significant competition in the consumer market. They've not had any traction with their touchscreen devices, and also the emergence of the low-cost vendors, from China and Asia, including Huawei and ZTE. Presents some insurmountable odds, for the company.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about the share price, because even before this, you weren't very bullish on RIM stock. In fact, we're looking at a price right now of maybe $70 US, considering the sell-off we saw during the regular session and after hours. And now you're saying $60 is a more attractive risk-reward basis. That's really interesting because, even every analyst, or mostly the average analyst on our Bloomberg system, is calling for $90. So, again, a much more bullish call coming from the market.
Absolutely, Susan. I think if it pulls back and holds at the mid-60s, then I think it's attractive. But I think right now it's too early to get back in the stock. When you have a break like what we're seeing right now, we need to see signs of stability in their business model in terms of margins, before it's safe to get back in the water. And I think investors will have plenty of time to digest the news and then wait it out to see what how the competition fares, and more specifically how RIM holds up against the competition, going into fall, which I don't think is going to look pretty for them.
Yeah. In fact, we have call options falling in price right now, put options gaining, so it looks like more losses could be ahead for this stock. And one more question for you, Ashhok. You said the future looks pretty grim for RIM. Is there any way they can get out of this cycle? I mean, are there going to be any new product launches they can come up with to wow the market once again?
Yeah, Susan, you raised a very important point earlier. I think what we're going to see is, given the slew of handset vendors, we could potentially come up with a scenario where the subsidies, from the carriers are actually pulled down, and that could, present, the perfect storm on the downside for the company, because, you have falling ASPs, lower subsidies, and lack of traction in these controller type of devices. So I don't see a way out, near term for the company.
Okay, Ashhok, it sounds pretty dire for RIM going forward. Thank you, though, for sharing your time. That's Ashhok Kumar, who's a tech analyst at Rodman Renshaw.